Captain stood on the bridge of the human ship and looked at the massive alien vessel in front of him. The ship was 10 times bigger than his own. It was called the Harmonious Dawn, and it belonged to the Galactic Coalition. They were the ones who ruled most of the galaxy. They had asked humans to join them. Was nervous, but he did not show it. He had been in the military for 20 years. He knew how to keep his face calm. Next to him stood Lieutenant, his second in command. Was younger but smart. They had served together for 5 years. "Sir, they are ready for us," said the communications officer. Nodded. "Tell them we are coming." The shuttle ride to the alien ship was quiet. Brought 5 people with him, was there. So was Lieutenant, who knew a lot about different cultures. Sergeant Wu came too. He was big and strong, the kind of man you wanted next to you in a fight. 2 Marines came as guards. Their names were Corporal Jin and Private Na. When they walked into the alien ship, felt strange. Everything was too smooth, too clean. The walls glowed with soft light. The air smelled like flowers. It was nothing like a human military ship. Human ships smelled like oil and sweat and coffee. Human ships had scratches on the walls and photos taped up in the hallways. This place felt empty. An alien waited for them in a large room. It looked like a giant insect, but it walked on 2 legs. It had 4 arms and big black eyes. Its skin was dark green and shiny. "Welcome," the alien said. The words came from a device on its chest. "I am Admiral of the people. We are honored to meet humanity." Bowed his head a little. "Thank you for inviting us." More aliens came into the room. One looked like it was made of crystal. Light moved through its body in strange colors. Another alien was hard to see. It looked like colored smoke that held a shape. Realized it was made of gas. The crystal alien spoke. Its voice sounded like music. "I am Cultural Officer Prism 9 of the... We have watched your species for many years. You have grown so much. We believe you are ready to join the coalition." "That is good to hear," said. They all sat down. Well, the humans sat. Some of the aliens floated, others just stood. They talked for an hour about simple things: trade, technology, cultural exchange. It all sounded nice. Then Admiral said something that made pay attention. "Of course, all coalition members must help with enforcement actions," said. The alien's voice was casual, like it was talking about the weather. "Enforcement actions?" asked. "Yes. When a species refuses to follow coalition law, we must deploy forces. It is rare. Most species understand that cooperation is better than conflict, but sometimes military action is needed." Looked at's face did not change, but saw his eyes sharpen. They were both thinking the same thing. The coalition wanted human soldiers. "I see," said slowly. "And how do your forces prepare for these actions?" Admiral seemed confused by the question. "Prepare. We load the troops onto ships. We travel to the target location. We deploy. It is a simple process." "No training before battle?" Sergeant Wu asked. His voice was rough. "Training happens during peacetime," said the gas alien. Its name was Senior Coordinator Miss 3 of the... "Before deployment, we simply run system checks and review tactical data." Felt something strange in his chest. It was not fear, it was more like disbelief. These aliens did not understand. They treated war like a job, like fixing a machine or delivering packages. "Do your soldiers do anything to get their minds ready?" Lieutenant asked. She sounded curious. The aliens looked at each other. "Minds ready," Prism 9 said. "We review the mission parameters, that is sufficient." Made a decision. It was risky, but he had to know if these aliens really understood what they were asking from humanity. Admiral said, "Would you like to see how humans prepare for combat, for cultural exchange purposes?" The alien's antennae moved forward. "That would be acceptable. We always value learning about new member species." "Excellent," said. He stood up. "We can arrange a demonstration on our ship tomorrow if that works for you." The aliens agreed. They seemed pleased. They thought they would see some kind of equipment check, maybe a briefing. They had no idea. After the meeting, the human team returned to their ship. As soon as they were alone, turned to. "Sir, are you sure about this?" asked. "No," said, "but they need to understand. If they want humans to fight for them, they need to know what that means." Sergeant Wu grinned. It was not a nice grin. "Should we go easy on them?" "No," said again. "Show them the real thing. Well, the safe version of the real thing." Lieutenant looked worried. "Sir, this could scare them." "Good," said. "Fear is honest. If they cannot handle watching us prepare, they cannot handle fighting beside us." That night sent a message to his superiors on Earth. He told them what he was planning. They sent back one word: approved. The next morning, 5 aliens came to the human ship. Admiral was there. So were Prism 9 and a younger scientist called 7. 2 other aliens came too. They were observers from different species. Met them at the airlock. "Welcome to the Indomitable," he said. The aliens looked around, saw their confusion. The human ship was not pretty. The walls had marks on them. Photos of families hung in frames. Someone had painted a flag on one bulkhead. Music played quietly from somewhere. "It is very lived in," Prism 9 said politely. "We are not machines," Lieutenant said with a smile. "We are people. This is our home." Led them to a training bay. It was a large room with high ceilings. 50 human soldiers waited there. They stood in neat rows. They wore combat uniforms. They looked professional. "These soldiers will demonstrate our pre-deployment protocols," said. Admiral Santeni waved. "A drill. We are familiar with drills." "This is not a drill," said quietly. "This is how we prepare our minds and spirits for war." He nodded to Lieutenant, walked to the front of the formation. He took a breath. Then he spoke one word. "Prepare." Everything changed. The humans stopped moving. Their faces went blank. Then something else appeared in their eyes, something old, something hungry. The aliens watched as the soldiers began to chant. The words were in an old language, Korean words from 1,000 years ago. The sound was low and rhythmic. It made the air feel heavy. Then the soldiers started to move. They stomped their feet. The whole room shook. They yelled. They beat their chests. Their eyes went wide and their mouths opened and sounds came out that did not seem human. Private Na pulled out black paint. She drew lines on her face, patterns that her ancestors wore into battle. Corporal Jin did the same. Sergeant Wu walked in front of the soldiers. He screamed at them. They screamed back. But it was not anger, it was something else, something deeper. The aliens stepped back. 7 made a sound of distress. Prism 9's crystal body started to crack with thin lines. And the humans kept going, louder, stronger. They were changing themselves. They were becoming something different. Watch the aliens' faces. He saw their fear. He saw their shock. Good, he thought, now they understand. We are not like you. We do not go to war clean and calm. We go to war carrying the ghosts of every human who ever fought and died. We go to war with fire in our blood and songs on our lips. We go to war as humans have always gone to war. And that is terrifying. The demonstration lasted 30 minutes. To the aliens, it felt like hours. 7 could not stop shaking. The young had studied 17 different species. None of them acted like this. None of them changed themselves before battle. They just went. They followed orders. They did their jobs. But these humans became different people. When it finally ended, the human soldiers stood perfectly still. They were breathing hard. Sweat ran down their faces, but they looked calm now, normal, like nothing strange had happened. "That is our basic preparation," Captain said to the aliens. His voice was steady. "For a real deployment, we would need more time. Days, not minutes." Admiral Santeni were flat against his head. That was a fear response in the "I see," the Admiral said. "This is most unusual." "It is necessary," said simply. The aliens left quickly after that. They said polite goodbyes, but Seven noticed how fast they moved, how they kept looking back at the humans, like they expected the soldiers to attack. Back on the Coalition ship, Seven went straight to his quarters. He tried to work. He tried to write his report, but his hands would not stop shaking. There was a knock on his door. It was Prism 9. This crystal body still had those thin cracks. They had not healed. "May I come in?" Prism 9 asked. "Yes," Seven said. They sat together in silence for a while. Finally, Prism 9 spoke. "What did we just witness?" "I do not know," Seven admitted. The translator could not process half of what they were saying. Ancient languages, battle cries, things that have no meaning in our databases. "They were transforming themselves," Prism 9 said quietly. "Deliberately entering altered mental states. I could see the chemical changes, adrenaline, endorphins. Their brains were rewiring in real time." Seven pulled up data on his screen. "I recorded everything. Look at this." He showed Prism 9 the measurements. Their heart rates doubled, pupil dilation, muscle tension increased by 40%. They did this to themselves, on purpose. "Why?" Prism 9 asked. "Why would any species do that?" "I need to understand," Seven said. "I need to know if this is normal for them, if this is just what humans are." "How will you find out?" Seven made a decision. "Their cultural liaison, Lieutenant, she offered to help me if I had questions. I will ask her for access to their military history." The next day, Seven went back to the human ship. This time he went alone. He was still scared, but he was also a scientist. He needed answers. Lieutenant met him at the airlock. She smiled. It was a nice smile, friendly. It made Seven relax a little. "Hello, Seven," she said. "I hoped you would come back." "You did?" "Yes, I saw your face yesterday. You looked confused, scared, but also curious." She led him down a hallway. "Curiosity is good. It means you want to understand." They went to a room full of computers and screens, sat down and typed something. "I am giving you access to our military history archives," she said. "Everything is here. Thousands of years of human warfare, all the data you want." Seven sat down slowly. "All of it, you trust me with this?" "You are Coalition," said. "We are supposed to be allies. Allies should not have secrets. Besides," she paused, "I think you need to see this, to really understand what you saw yesterday." She left him alone. Seven looked at the screen. There were so many files, so much information. Where should he start? He decided to search for pre-battle rituals. The first file that came up was about something called berserkers. Seven read carefully. These were human warriors from a place called Scandinavia. They lived over 1,000 years ago. Before battle, they would do several things. They would eat certain mushrooms that made them see things that were not real. They would bite their shields. They would howl like animals. Then they would fight, and when they fought, they felt no pain. They did not fear death. They would attack with such fury that other humans were terrified of them. Seven sat back. This was insane. These humans had made themselves temporarily crazy, on purpose, for war. He kept reading. There was a file about pilots from a war on Earth, a big war. These pilots would fly aircraft loaded with explosives directly into enemy ships. They knew they would die, but before they went, they would write poetry. They would drink tea in a special ceremony. They would say goodbye to their friends. Then they would get in their aircraft and fly away singing. Seven felt sick, not physically sick. His species did not get sick like that, but mentally sick. This was wrong, this was disturbing. But he kept reading. He could not stop. Another file showed warriors from islands in Earth's ocean. Before battle, they would perform something called the file had a video. Seven played it. The warriors stood in rows. They began to chant. Then they moved. They stomped. They slapped their bodies. They stuck out their tongues and opened their eyes wide. They looked insane. They looked like they wanted to tear the world apart. But the file explained that this was not just for show. They actually changed the warriors' mental state. It unified the group. It prepared them psychologically. It made them braver, stronger, more willing to die. 7 found more videos. Soldiers from different human eras, different human cultures, all doing similar things. Some would pray to gods, some would dance, some would sing, some would sit in complete silence, not moving for hours, some would paint their faces or their bodies, some would sharpen weapons that were already sharp. One video showed a human soldier named Sung. He was from something called the Titan War. That was a war between different human groups. Sung sat alone before a battle. He was cleaning his rifle, and he was singing, very quietly, a soft song, a children's song. The file said that the next day, Sung killed 47 enemy soldiers in close combat. He saved his entire unit, and afterwards he could not remember doing it. He had entered what humans called the zone, a mental state where the body moved on instinct and training, and the conscious mind went somewhere else. 7 spent 6 hours reading and watching. He forgot to eat. He forgot to rest. He just kept learning. And slowly, he began to understand something terrible. These rituals worked. The data was clear. Human soldiers who performed pre-battle rituals were 3 to 4 times more effective in combat. They had better unit cohesion. They made fewer mistakes. They were braver. They were more dangerous. Humans had spent thousands of years learning how to turn themselves into better killers, and they had gotten very, very good at it. When 7 finally left the archive room, Lieutenant was waiting for him. "Did you find what you needed?" she asked. 7 looked at her, this small, friendly human. She had given him access to all of this. She had let him see the most frightening parts of human history. "Why? Why did you show me this?" he asked. Smile faded. "Because you need to know who we are, what we are. The Coalition wants us to fight for them, fine, but they should understand what that means." "You are warriors," 7 said quietly. "True warriors, not soldiers, warriors." "We can be both," said. "We can be diplomats and scientists and artists. We can be kind and gentle, but when we need to fight—" She looked directly into his eyes. "We remember how. We have always known how. It is in our blood." 7 went back to his ship. He tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw those videos. He heard those war cries. He saw human faces changing, becoming something other than human. The next morning, Prism 9 came to his quarters again. "You look worse," they said. "I know," 7 said. "I learned too much." "Tell me." So 7 told Prism 9 everything. He showed all the files, all the videos. They watched together, and together they began to understand. Humans were not like other species. Most species in the galaxy were prey animals or herd animals. They evolved to avoid conflict, to cooperate, to survive by working together. Humans were predators. They evolved by hunting, by fighting, by climbing to the top of their planet's food chain through violence and intelligence. And they had never forgotten it. "What do we tell the Admiral?" Prism 9 asked. "The truth," 7 said. "Humans are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered, not because of their weapons, not because of their technology, but because of their minds, because they know how to make themselves into weapons." "Will the Coalition accept them?" "I do not know," 7 said, "but I think we should, because I would rather have humans as allies than enemies." Prism 9's crystal body flickered. "I am afraid of them." "So am I," 7 admitted. "So am I." Admiral did not believe the reports. He sat in his command chamber reading what 7 and Prism 9 had written. It was ridiculous. Humans transforming themselves psychologically before battle. Ancient rituals that increased combat effectiveness. It sounded like superstition. They had been part of the Coalition for 3,000 years. They had seen many species. Some were strong, some were smart, some were both. but none of them did anything like what these reports described. "This is exaggeration," said to his staff. "The observers were frightened by a simple training exercise, nothing more." But his military advisor, a commander named Tu, disagreed. "Admiral, the data does not lie. The human soldiers' biological readings were extraordinary. This was not a performance. They genuinely altered their mental and physical state." "For what purpose?" demanded. "War is about strategy, tactics, logistics, not emotions." "Perhaps," Tu said carefully, "that is why humans are so effective at it." Did not like that idea. He decided to see for himself. He would demand a proper demonstration, a formal one, with proper observers from all coalition species. Then everyone would see that this was nothing to worry about. He sent a message to Captain. Read the message and smiled. It was not a happy smile. "They want a full regimental demonstration," he told his crew, "with 47 observers from different species." Lieutenant whistled. "That is a lot of aliens to terrify." "The Admiral thinks we are exaggerating," said. "He wants proof, so we will give him proof." "How much should we show them?" asked Lieutenant. "Thought about it, they could hold back, show a gentle version, keep the aliens comfortable. Or they could show the truth. Everything," decided. "Not the dangerous stuff, nothing that would actually hurt anyone, but everything else, every tradition, every ritual, everything that makes us human warriors." Sergeant Wu grinned. "The boys are going to love this." "Get the regiment ready," ordered. 500 soldiers, full pre-deployment ceremony. Tell them it is real. Tell them to prepare like we are actually going to war. 3 days later, the aliens arrived. There were 47 of them, and a dozen other species. They came in diplomatic vessels. They wore formal clothes. They looked confident. 7 and Prism 9 were among them. They did not look confident. They looked nervous. The humans brought the aliens to the largest hangar on their ship. It was a massive space. The ceiling was 10 meters high. The room could hold 1,000 people. 500 human soldiers waited there. They stood in perfect formation, 20 rows of 25. They wore combat armor, gray and black, practical. No decoration except for small flags on their shoulders. Each flag was different: Korea, Japan, Mexico, Nigeria, Russia, Brazil, over 50 different countries represented. The aliens filed into an observation area. It was a balcony that looked down on the hangar floor. They had a perfect view. Admiral stood at the front. "This is quite a production," he said to Captain. "This is standard procedure," replied. "What you saw before was a squad demonstration. This is a regiment." A man walked to the center of the formation. He was tall, gray hair, scars on his face. This was Commander. He was in charge of all ground forces on this ship. Commander looked at his soldiers. Then he looked at the aliens. Then he began to speak. His voice was not loud, but it carried. Every person in the room could hear him clearly. "We stand here today to show our allies who we are," said. "Not who we pretend to be, not who we wish we were, who we truly are." He paused. The soldiers did not move. "We are human," continued. "We are the children of Earth. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day. Predators hunted us. Diseases struck us down. The weather froze us and burned us. Other humans fought us for food and land and water." His voice grew stronger. "But we survived. We learned to make fire. We learned to make tools. We learned to work together. We learned to fight. And we learned to win." The soldiers' faces began to change. Something was waking up in their eyes. "We climbed down from the trees and walked across the plains," said. "We crossed frozen continents. We sailed across endless oceans. We built cities. We split the atom. We reached the stars." He was almost shouting now. "And we did all of that while fighting. Fighting nature, fighting each other, fighting everything that stood in our way. That is what it means to be human. We fight. We survive. We win." The soldiers roared. It was a single sound from 500 throats. The hangar shook with it. The aliens jumped. Some made sounds of alarm. Admiral took a step back. And then the preparation began. Commander raised his hand. The soldiers moved. Each one began their own ritual, their own way of preparing for war. In one section, soldiers knelt. They clasped their hands together, they prayed. Some whispered, some spoke aloud. They prayed to Jesus, to Allah, to Buddha, to gods the aliens had never heard of. They prayed in dozens of languages. In another section, soldiers sat cross-legged on the floor. They closed their eyes, they breathed slowly. They meditated, becoming calm, becoming empty, becoming ready. Some soldiers danced, traditional dances from their ancestors. Korean drums appeared from nowhere. African drums joined them. The rhythm built, feet stomped, bodies spun. The dancers' faces were fierce, joyful, alive. Other soldiers performed martial arts. They moved through ancient forms, punching, kicking. Their movements were precise, beautiful, deadly. Corporal Jin and Private Na painted their faces again, but this time dozens of soldiers joined them. Red paint, black paint, white paint, patterns and symbols from 100 different cultures, war paint that their great-great-great-grandparents wore. Specialist Me stood alone. She was small, quiet. She took out a knife. She began to sharpen it. The knife was already sharp enough to cut bone, but she sharpened it anyway, again and again. Her eyes focused on nothing. She was somewhere else, somewhere far away. Sergeant walked among his squad. He embraced each soldier. Some cried. He cried with them. Then they pulled apart and screamed at each other, screamed out their fear, screamed out their anger, got it all out before the battle. Private Saul sat perfectly still. She did not move, did not blink, barely breathed. She stared at the wall, but she was not seeing the wall. She was seeing the fight to come. She was visualizing every move, every shot, every decision, preparing her mind for war. The noise built, prayers, chants, drums, war cries, singing, screaming, crying, laughing, all of it together. Chaos. Beautiful, terrible chaos. The aliens could not look away. They were horrified, fascinated, terrified. Seven's translator failed completely. Too many languages, too many sounds. It just gave up and went silent. Prism 9's cracks grew deeper. Light leaked out from the fractures in strange colors. Observer began to disperse. Its gaseous form lost cohesion. It had to be carried away by attendants. Admiral stood frozen. His antennae were completely flat. His forearms hung limp. He had never seen anything like this. Never even imagined anything like this. And then, at a signal from Commander, it stopped. Instant silence. 500 soldiers stood in perfect formation. They were not moving, not making a sound. Sweat ran down their faces. Their armor was marked with paint and dirt, but they stood straight, calm, ready. The transformation was complete. Commander saluted Captain. Regiment is prepared for deployment, sir. Returned the salute. Well done, Commander. Turned to the aliens. Most of them looked like they might faint, if aliens could faint. This is how we prepare for war, said quietly. This is what you will get if you ask humans to fight for the coalition. We do not go to battle like robots. We go like humans, with everything we are, everything we have ever been. Admiral tried to speak. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. The demonstration is over, said. You may return to your ships, unless you have questions. No one had questions. They all just wanted to leave. As the aliens filed out, Seven stayed behind. He looked down at the human soldiers. They were relaxing now, laughing, talking, wiping the paint off their faces, being normal again. Lieutenant came up next to him. You switched it off, Seven said. The warrior state, you just turned it off. Yes, said. We learned how to turn it on, so we learned how to turn it off. Both are important. I am very afraid of your species, Seven admitted. Nodded. That is smart. You should be afraid, but you should also know that we control this. We do not lose ourselves. We choose when to become warriors, and we choose when to stop. How can you be sure? Seven asked. Smiled sadly. Because we have made mistakes throughout our history. We have lost control. We have let the warrior take over completely, and we learned from those mistakes. We built rituals not just to prepare for war, but to come back from it. Both are equally important. Seven looked at her. Will the coalition accept you after this? I do not know, said honestly. But now they know what we are. Now they can make an informed choice. Seven nodded slowly. I will tell them to accept you. You are terrifying, but you are honest, and that is rare. The Coalition Council met in emergency session. It was rare for the full council to meet. There were representatives from over 800 species. Usually, they worked through committees and sub-councils, but this decision was too important. Everyone needed to vote. The council chamber was enormous. It was a sphere half a kilometer wide. Representatives floated or stood on platforms arranged in rings around a central space. That was where speakers addressed the council. Today, the speaker was Admiral. He looked tired. His antennae drooped. He had not slept well since the human demonstration. Members of the council began. I must report on the human integration assessment. The results are concerning. He activated a holographic display. Video from the demonstration played. The council watched in silence. Some shifted uncomfortably. Others made sounds of distress. A few simply left. When the video ended, continued. You have seen what I have seen. Humans do not approach warfare as we do. They transform themselves. They deliberately induce psychological states that we would consider unstable. They embrace violence in ways that are, he searched for a word, disturbing. A counselor stood. Admiral, are you recommending rejection? Was quiet for a moment. I am uncertain. This is beyond my experience. Another voice spoke. It was the senior representative, a being called Wind Current 7. Its gaseous form shimmered as it spoke. I have reviewed the complete data. The humans' approach to warfare is unusual, but it is also extraordinarily effective. Their combat simulations show success rates 300% higher than comparable coalition forces. A crystalline counselor chimed in. Effectiveness is not the issue. The issue is stability. Can we trust a species that deliberately makes itself unstable? They do not become unstable, said a new voice. Everyone turned. It was 7. The young scientist had no right to speak in council. He was not a representative, but he spoke anyway. They do not become unstable, 7 repeated. I have studied their history. I have examined their military records. The psychological preparation does not create instability. It creates controlled aggression. There is a difference. Admiral looked annoyed. Scientist 7, you are out of order. I do not care, 7 said. His voice was shaking but firm. You asked me to observe, I observed. You asked me to report, I am reporting. The humans are terrifying, yes, but they are not dangerous to allies. He activated his own data display. Statistics filled the air. Look at this. Human-friendly fire incidents are 67% lower than coalition average. Unit cohesion is 90% higher. Post-combat psychological recovery is faster. They do not lose control. They take control of themselves, of the battle, of the outcome. Prism 9 floated forward. I support Scientist 7's assessment. I was also frightened by what I saw. My crystalline matrix is still damaged from the stress, but fear is not a reason to reject them. Understanding is. The council chamber erupted in debate. Voices overlapped. Arguments flew back and forth. Some wanted humans immediately. Others wanted to ban them forever. Finally, the head of the council called for order. It was an ancient being from a species of energy entities. Its name was Harmony above all. Enough, Harmony's voice resonated through the chamber. We will hear from the humans themselves. "Captain, please come forward." Had been waiting in an observation area. He walked to the center of the chamber. 500 alien representatives stared down at him. He felt very small. But he had faced worse. "Captain," Harmony said, "explain your species' approach to warfare." Took a breath. "We do not enjoy war. That is the first thing you must understand. We hate it. It costs us lives, resources. It damages our minds and spirits. We would prefer never to fight." He paused. "But we cannot change what we are. We are predators. We evolved by hunting, by fighting, by killing. It is in our DNA, in our psychology, in our culture. You can see it in our history. Thousands of years of nearly constant warfare." Some council members made sounds of disapproval. "I know how that sounds," said. "Barbaric, primitive, but here is what you must also understand. We learned, we adapted. We took our capacity for violence and we controlled it. We built rules around it, laws, ethics, traditions." He gestured at the video that still hung in the air. "You think our pre-battle rituals are savage, but they serve a purpose. They channel our aggression. They unify our soldiers. They prepare us psychologically so that we do not break under the stress of combat." "You transform yourselves into killers," a counselor said. "Yes," agreed, "but we also transform ourselves back. That is the part you did not see. After battle, we have other rituals, debriefings, ceremonies, counseling, ways to process what we have experienced, ways to put the warrior away and become human again." He looked around the chamber. "You wage war as a logistical function. You program drones. You deploy units. You calculate acceptable casualties. It is clean, efficient, emotionless." His voice grew harder. "We cannot do that. We are not machines. When we fight with everything we are, with 200,000 years of survival instinct, with the memory of every ancestor who refused to die, with the love of everyone we are protecting, with the hate for everyone who threatens them." The chamber was silent. "Yes, it is frightening," said quietly. "It frightens us too, every time, but that fear keeps us honest. It reminds us that war is real, that death is permanent, that every battle has a cost." "And if we accept you," Harmony asked, "what then?" "Then you will have allies who fight with their whole being," said. "Allies who do not give up, who do not surrender, who will stand beside you when everything else fails. Because that is what humans do. We fight. We endure. We win." He paused. "But you will also have allies who question orders, who argue, who want to know why we are fighting and whether it is worth the cost, because we know what war costs. We have paid that price 10,000 times." Admiral spoke again. "Captain, I must ask, can you guarantee your soldiers will follow coalition command?" "No," said bluntly. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. "I cannot guarantee that," continued. "If you order us to do something we believe is wrong, we will refuse. If you order us to commit atrocities, we will refuse. If you order us to die for no reason, we will refuse. We are not slaves. We are not robots. We are humans. We think. We choose. We have free will." "That is unacceptable," a counselor said. "Then do not accept us," replied. "But you should know that this is why we are effective, because we think, because we care, because we fight for reasons, not just orders." Harmony, above all, was quiet for a long time. Then it spoke. "The council will vote, but first I have a question. Captain, what do you fear most about joining the coalition?" "Did not hesitate. That you will use us, that you will see us as weapons instead of people, that you will send us to fight your wars without understanding what you are asking us to sacrifice." "And what do you hope for?" "That you will accept us as partners, that you will value our perspective, that when war comes, you will remember that humans do not fight because we are told to. We fight because we choose to, and that makes all the difference." The vote took 3 hours. Waited in a side chamber with his crew. Lieutenant paced nervously. Lieutenant sat quietly. Sergeant Wu cleaned his rifle for the 10th time. Finally, 7 came to find them. "The vote is complete," the young said, and asked. "You are accepted, by a narrow margin. 63% voted yes." Let out a breath he did not know he was holding. "But there are conditions," 7 continued. "Your pre-combat rituals are classified as psychological warfare. You must perform them away from other coalition species to prevent morale damage." Sergeant Wu laughed. "They are afraid we will scare their soldiers." "Yes," 7 said simply. "They are, and they have a right to be. You are the most terrifying species in the galaxy." "But we are in," said. "You are in," 7 confirmed. Then he smiled. It was a strange expression on a face. "I am glad. I voted for you. So did Prism 9. We argued for you, because I would rather have humans as friends than enemies." "Wise choice," said. He offered his hand. 7 looked at it, then carefully touched it with one of his own appendages. "I am still afraid of you," 7 admitted. "Good," said. "Fear is honest. Respect built on fear can become real respect, eventually." "I hope so," 7 said, "because the galaxy is more dangerous than you know, and I think we are going to need you." 6 months passed. The human fleet integrated into the coalition military structure. It was not easy. There were problems, misunderstandings, cultural clashes, but slowly the two sides learned to work together. Captain was promoted. He became liaison between human forces and coalition command. He spent his days in meetings, negotiating, explaining, teaching. Lieutenant became head of the cultural exchange program. She helped aliens understand humans, and humans understand aliens. It was hard work, but important. 7 was assigned as the primary observer of human forces. He worked directly with. They became friends. Strange friends, but friends nonetheless. Prism 9 recovered from the stress fractures. The now served as a counselor, helping other aliens deal with their fear of humans. There were many who needed help. Everything seemed peaceful. Then the distress call came. A coalition colony was under attack. A species called the had declared war. They were aggressive, expansionist. They had rejected coalition membership and decided to take what they wanted by force. The coalition military mobilized. Ships from a dozen species converged on the colony, but they were too far away. The colony would fall before help arrived, unless someone closer responded. The nearest ship was human. Captain received the emergency transmission on the bridge of his flagship. He listened carefully. A colony of 8 million beings, under attack, defenses failing, civilians dying. "How long until the main fleet arrives?" he asked. 14 hours, his tactical officer reported. "And us?" "We can be there in 3 hours, but sir," the officer hesitated. "We are one ship that have a battle group, 6 warships. We would be outnumbered." Looked at the star map. 3 hours, 14 hours, 11 hours difference. How many would die in those 11 hours? Lieutenant said, "Sound general quarters, prepare the crew for combat, real combat." His eyes widened. This was not a drill, not a demonstration. This was war. "Yes, sir," he said. The alarms rang through the ship. Soldiers ran to their stations. The ship's massive engines roared to life. They turned toward the colony. Opened a channel to Coalition Command. "This is Captain. We are responding to the distress call. We will hold the line until the main fleet arrives." There was a pause. Then Admiral's voice came through. "Captain, you cannot fight 6 ships alone. You will be destroyed." "Probably," agreed. "But 11 hours is a long time. A lot of civilians will die. We can buy them time." "This is not strategically sound," argued. "One ship cannot make a difference." "Watch us," said. Then he closed the channel. He opened another channel. This one went to the entire crew. "Attention all hands. We are going into battle, a real battle. People will try to kill us. Some of us may die. But there are 8 million beings on that colony who need our help, and we are the only ones who can reach them in time." He paused. "This is what we trained for. This is why we prepared. This is why we learned to become warriors, not for glory, not for conquest, but to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them." Another pause. "Begin preparation. Full ritual, 3 hours, make yourselves ready." The ship transformed. In the barracks, soldiers began their rituals, each in their own way, praying, meditating, painting, dancing, singing, screaming, crying, laughing. Sergeant Wu walked among his squad. He embraced each soldier, told them he loved them, told them to stay alive, told them to fight like hell. Private Saul sat in perfect stillness, visualizing the battle, seeing every move, preparing her mind. Specialist Me sharpened her blade, over and over, until it could split a hair. Corporal Jin painted his face, traditional patterns, the same patterns his great-grandfather wore when he fought on Earth. In the ship's small chapel, Lieutenant knelt before a simple altar. She prayed, not to one god, to all of them, to anyone who might be listening. Commander walked through the ship. He checked every section, every soldier. He did not give speeches. He just looked each person in the eye, nodded. That was enough. On the bridge, Captain prepared in his own way. He sat in his command chair. He thought about his family, his parents, his sister, his friends, everyone he was fighting for. And he thought about the 8 million strangers on that colony, people he had never met, would never meet, but people nonetheless, lives that mattered. He would save them, or die trying. After 3 hours, the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The colony appeared on the... It was burning. The ship surrounded it like wolves around prey. 6 enemy vessels confirmed, the tactical officer reported. They are armed with heavy plasma cannons, missile batteries, fighter craft. "What are our odds?" asked. The officer was quiet. Then, 4% chance of survival, sir. "Better than I expected," said. "Open a channel to the enemy." The commander appeared on the screen. It was a reptilian creature, scales, sharp teeth, cold eyes. "Human vessel," the hissed. "Leave now, this does not concern you." "Those are coalition citizens you are attacking," said calmly. "That makes it our concern. You are one ship, we are 6, you cannot stop us." "No," agreed. "But I can slow you down, hurt you, make you pay for every life you take." The commander laughed. "Foolish, we will destroy you, then we will finish the colony." "You can try," said. Then he closed the channel. He turned to his crew. "All hands, battle stations, prepare to engage." The ship moved forward, 1 vessel against 6. It was suicide, everyone knew it. But they went anyway. Because they were human. Because they had made themselves ready. Because 8 million lives depended on them. The battle began. The human ship struck like a viper, fast, precise, deadly. It targeted the lead vessel and hit it with everything. Missiles, energy weapons, the ship's shields collapsed. Its hull ruptured. It began to drift. 1 down, 5 to go. The other ships turned. They opened fire. The human ship shook under the impact. Shields flickered. Alarms blared. "Shields at 60%, the officer reported. "Keep firing," ordered. They hit a second ship, then a third. They were powerful but slow. The human vessel was smaller, faster. It danced between the enemy ships, striking and moving, never staying still. But there were too many. Slowly the human shields failed. The hull took damage, fires broke out, people died. And they kept fighting. In the gun batteries, Corporal Jin loaded and fired. Loaded and fired. His arms burned. His hands bled. He did not stop. In engineering, Specialist Me kept the engines running. They were overheating, pushing past safety limits. She did not care. She would keep them going until they exploded or the battle ended, whichever came first. On the bridge, Captain commanded. His voice was steady, calm. Inside he was screaming, but he did not show it. His crew needed him to be strong. 11 hours. They had to last 11 hours. They lasted 12. When the coalition fleet finally arrived, the human ship was still fighting. Barely. Half its weapons were destroyed. Engines were failing. Life support was critical. 300 crew members were dead. 200 more were wounded. But they were still fighting, and the colony still stood. They fled when they saw the coalition fleet. They had already lost 4 of their 6 ships to the single human vessel. They had no appetite for fighting a whole fleet. The coalition fleet surrounded the human ship. Medical teams rushed aboard. Firefighting crews worked to contain the damage. Admiral came personally. He walked through the damaged corridors. He saw the blood, the bodies, the exhausted survivors. He found Captain on the bridge, was still in his command chair. He had not moved in 12 hours. Blood ran down his face from a head wound, but his eyes were clear. Captain said quietly, "You should be in medical." Later said, "Status of the colony." "Intact, you saved them, all 8 million. Nodded, then he finally allowed himself to slump in his chair. Looked at the bridge crew. They were all injured, all exhausted, but they were smiling, some were crying, some were laughing, some were both. "I did not believe," said. "I thought you were exaggerating, that your preparations were theater, but I see now. You really do transform yourselves." "Yes," said quietly. "How?" asked. "How did you last 12 hours against 6 ships?" Looked at him. "Because we prepared, because we made ourselves ready, because we did not fight as individuals but as one organism, one purpose, one will." He gestured at his crew. "You saw the rituals, you saw how we prepare, but you did not understand what they do. They do not just make us brave, they make us unified. They connect us to something larger than ourselves, to our history, our culture, our species, and that connection makes us stronger than any individual could ever be." Was quiet for a long time. Then he did something he had never done before. He bowed too, a gesture of deep respect among the. "I was wrong about you," said. "I thought you were dangerous, and you are, but you are also noble. You risked everything for strangers, that is. I have no words for it." "Heroism," suggested tiredly. "We do not have that concept," admitted. "We fight because we are ordered. You fight because you choose. That is the difference." He straightened. "The council will hear of this. Everyone will hear of this, what you did here." "Good," said. "Maybe then they will understand. We are not monsters, we are not barbarians, we are warriors, and there is a difference." Later, after the wounded were treated and the dead were honored, Lieutenant found 7 in an observation lounge. He was watching the colony. The damaged buildings were being repaired. Life was returning to normal. "Are you okay?" asked. 7 turned to her. "I saw the battle footage. I saw what you did, how you fought. It was," he struggled for words, "magnificent, terrifying, beautiful, all at once." "That is war," said softly, "all those things." "I finally understand," 7 said. "The 1,000-yard stare. I saw it in Captain's eyes, in all your eyes. You look at something far away, something we cannot see." "What do you think we see?" asked. 7 thought carefully. "I think you see what you are capable of, both the good and the bad, the capacity to save 8 million lives, and the capacity to destroy 6 ships. You see the warrior inside you, and you accept it, embrace it, control it." Smiled. "You really do understand." "I am still afraid of you," 7 admitted. "Good," said. "But maybe now you are also proud to call us allies." 7's antennae moved in a gesture that meant affirmation. "Yes, proud and grateful. The galaxy is a dangerous place. I am glad humans are on our side." Looked out at the stars. "So are we," she said. "So are we."